Well, is 2020 officially canceled? The coronavirus, self-quarantining, social distancing. We're going to talk about all of it in today's episode of the Steve Freeman Podcast.
You're listening to the Steve Freeman Podcast, the real, raw truth about the pursuit of success in music, business, and life. Here's your host, hit songwriter, multi-platinum selling producer, and serial entrepreneur, Steve Freeman.
Okay, guys, let's jump into it today. Coronavirus. Is it serious? Are people panicking? Are we taking it too far? We're going to talk about that in today's episode. I'm loving the new term that has been coined, social distancing. I have been told my entire life that I am intimidating and unapproachable. Now, finally, I will be able to look people dead square in the eye and say, I'm not. I'm just socially distant. It's one of those weird things that's going to come out of this that will last forever. But what I want to talk about today is this. Are we taking this thing serious enough? I think there is a portion of the population that is taking it serious. I think there's a portion of the population taking it way too serious and are starting to panic and almost taking it to a hysteria level, which I don't think we're there yet. What I am surprised by, however, is that people are not heeding the advice and taking it serious enough. We've got people like Dr. Fauci that are constantly on television. They're telling us about this social distancing and self-quarantining for a reason. It's inconvenient, especially this time of year. I mean, my kids are on spring break this week. We're all supposed to be in Utah having a great time. We're not. We're still in Nashville. We made the decision last week as things look like they were progressively getting worse, that we made the decision that we were not going to travel, that we were going to stay here in Nashville. We made the decision not because we were scared of contracting the virus, but we were scared of getting somewhere. And then the airlines start closing down flights or shutting down airports if this thing got to that point, which it looks like we're getting there. We were worried about not being able to get back home. So we made the decision to not go. Is it inconvenient? It is absolutely inconvenient. It's frustrating. You've got kids who are pent up in school all this time, all year. They look forward to spring break and going and doing something and getting outside of the norm. However, when things like this happen, it is up to us to take the personal responsibility to do what we can do to stop the spread of the virus. One of those things is social distancing and self-quarantining. Just because we make the decision that we are not going to go out, we're not going to involve ourselves in large groups of people, does not mean that we're a part of some mass hysteria or that we're all panicking. It just means that we're taking self-responsibility and we're doing our part. And I am blown away at the number of people that are not doing this. I see people and know people that are, no, we're going somewhere. We got to do something. We won't fly, but we'll drive here. We'll go here. We'll do this. We'll do that. That is not helping the situation. Now, you can tell me, Steve, you're freaking out. I'm not freaking out. I'm not freaking out at all. I'm just making the decision that I'm not going to go and walk around the mall. I'm not going to travel here or travel there. I'm going to stay close to my house to where I know it's an environment that I can control until we get past the curve in this thing. We are constantly being told every day that this is going to get worse before it gets better. And I don't understand the logic of some people that hear that and go, well, but they're not talking about me. I see on social media every day, songwriters here in town still getting together with 3 or 4 other people and going from here to here to here. It's simply not worth it. And I'm not even talking about from a standpoint of the potential of you getting the virus and getting sick. I'm talking about there are many people, they're saying, that exude no symptoms whatsoever from having this virus that are carriers for it. The last thing in the world you want to do is go somewhere, get exposed to it, and then carry it and take it somewhere else. But the only way to stop the spread of this thing is social distancing and, to a certain extent, self-quarantining. Let me say this. I don't think that if it weren't as serious as we're being told that it is, that you wouldn't have Apple stores closing, Disneyland and Disney World closing their doors, not allowing anybody in the park. Hotels are closing down. Airlines are stopping flights. You've got the NHL, the MLB, the MLS. You've got all major sporting events that are canceled for the remainder or until further notice, some canceling the rest of the season. You've got college campuses all over the United States closing, and they're going to distance learning, or they're just writing off the rest of this year altogether. I don't think that people are panicking. I think people are taking the appropriate steps that they should be taking to stop the spread of this thing. I know last week before my kids went on spring break this week that the school sent out an email and they said, look, we are preparing for distance learning and distance education for the rest of the year. We don't know if it's going to get to that point, but we're preparing for it. And we showed up, we got in line to pick up our kids from school, and we got another email as we were sitting in line saying, hey, dismissal is going to be a little chaotic today. We are having all of the students clear out their lockers completely, preparing for they might be doing distance education. And I see on social media, whether it's Facebook or other, people are, stop panicking. This is not as big of a deal. It obviously is as big of a deal. I think it's almost ignorance and on some levels, complete and utter stupidity to not pay attention to what's going on, to not look at what happened in China, look what's happening in Italy. And we're already almost past that point. By the time that more tests get out there, the more tests that become available, the more cases are going to go up. We keep hearing them say it's going to get worse before it gets better. The only way that we can play a part in helping this thing get better is to stay at home. And why is that so hard for some people? I get it that there are a lot of people that are turning and trying to make this thing political, and they don't want to buy into that. They think it's all mass hysteria and panicking, and people are taking this thing too far. Sure, there are people that are taking this thing too far. I've never bought into the whole doomsday prepper thing, but this whole thing has made me think a couple of different times that, okay, I'm not going to go to that level. However, being prepared for something like this is probably not a bad thing. That's one of the lessons that I've learned through this. I'm not saying you have to have a whole separate part of your house or basements that's stocked full of non-perishables and, 3,700 cases of water and, like one guy here in Tennessee, 17,000 bottles of hand sanitizer that he's trying to capitalize on and sell at a high premium. I'm not saying be that way, but I am saying that it might not hurt to have a couple extra cases of water, some toilet paper, some food, some things like that, because I'm not panicking. I'm not worried about that side of it. But when I see on social media and the news reports, the people are lining up outside Costco 3 hours before they open, and people are buying up as much as they can possibly get, it's not panic, but then you go into a mode of, well, what happens when I do need just regular groceries? Am I going to be able to get them? If we do run out of bottled water, am I going to be able to find bottled water to get, or toilet paper? 2020, whether we want to admit it or not, has officially been canceled. And I would urge everyone to do your part. Distance yourself. If you don't have to go out and do something, there's no need to do it. I understand that we all get bored and we want to get out of the house. We want to go do this. We want to go do that. Well, get in your car and go drive around. You don't have to go to the movie theater. You don't have to go to the mall. You don't have to go here or go there. Do your part to help the curve of this thing flatten out. The only way to stop the spread is if we stop spreading it. And the only way to do that is to do what the smartest people in the room are telling us that we need to do. And that is through self-quarantining and social distancing. I get really frustrated when I do see on social media people still going about and continuing their normal everyday lives. When folks, whether you want to say that this is panicking or hysteria, whatever, life as we know it is not normal right now. Even here in Nashville, the mayor has said all bars on Lower Broadway, you should close your doors. Restaurants, fill to-go orders, but stop seating people in restaurants. We need to keep people away from each other in large quantities in order to get this curve to flatten out. What I don't understand, what I don't get is the mindset and philosophy of some people that hear that and go, screw it. I'm going to go here. I'm going to do that. Those are the same people. We were talking about this the other day, and it's so frustrating. Those are the same people that send their kids to school sick. We see this all the time. My daughters come home constantly with, well, so-and-so came to school today. I mean, they were throwing up at school or they were running a fever, and their parents send them to school. Because of what? The parent may work and they can't take off work to stay home with the sick kid. There are things, especially when you become a parent, that you have to sacrifice. And if you can't go to work because you have to stay at home with your sick kid, then that's what you've got to do. Sending your kid to school sick is not an option, and it never should be an option. But those are the same people that are disregarding all safety measures that we're being told right now. We're all going to load up in the car. We're going to go here. We're going to go there. We're not going to stop our lives. When something like this happens and we have a pandemic like this, as much as it is inconvenient, it does affect all of us. And it's really frustrating to see some people are so selfish that they are not willing to think about other people enough to withgo or forego the luxury of doing what you want to do in that specific moment or minute. We have to take better care of ourselves. We have to take better care of other people. We have to do our part to make sure this thing goes away as fast as humanly possible. I think when you start seeing closures and the president has to issue a national state of emergency, that we all do our part. Now, I'm not trying to spread fear or panic or hysteria. But I do want to say something we just went through in Nashville a couple of weeks ago with the tornadoes. Here's what I guess I don't understand the difference. And maybe somebody can explain this to me a little bit different. When you live here in the South, where we are plagued by tornadoes this time of year, every single year, when the tornado sirens go off and the tornado warnings flash on the TV, and it's dark outside and you can't see, and the news tells you that in your particular area that you need to seek shelter immediately. None of us have a problem going to the most interior room of our house when we can see a tornado coming. What I don't understand is what is the difference between that scenario and what we're dealing with the coronavirus. They are on TV telling you that the tornado is bigger than they anticipated. And it has an all likelihood of affecting you or somebody that you know. And it's time to get to the innermost room of your house and take shelter because the tornado is headed straight for you. In the weather scenario, nobody just sits on their couch and goes, well, if it's going to hit me, it's going to hit me. I mean, I'm still going to go out. I'm still going to run up here and go shopping. I'm still going to go do this, even though they tell me the tornado is going to come right through this area. It's on the ground right now. It's 1.5 miles from my house. I don't care. I'm still going to do what I was going to do anyway. No, you get your ass to the interior of the room and you protect yourself and you protect your family. What I don't understand is why the coronavirus is any different. They are telling you the tornado is on the ground. It's on the ground. It's headed to your neighborhood. And the only way that you can protect yourself and people around you is to get to the innermost interior room of your house and take shelter. And why there are so many people out there that refuse to go, okay, well, tornado's on the ground. It's coming. We better take shelter. No, we're just going to continue about our everyday, normal, selfish lives. Guys, this is serious what we're going through. I will be the first to admit that when we first started hearing about this a few weeks ago, that I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. But it was very evident last Wednesday as we were preparing to try to make the decision of what we were going to do about our pending vacation. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to stay? This thing took an ugly curve in 24 hours. And it's moving very fast. It's moving rapidly. They have given us the preventative measures. Wash your hands. One of the things we're learning through all this is there are a lot of dirty motherfuckers out there that we didn't know. Wash your hands, people, for Christ's sakes. Wash your hands. Personal hygiene doesn't take a lot. Wash your hands. They have told us to curve this thing. We need to take better and have better personal hygiene, wash our hands, and limit ourselves to exposure through self-quarantining or through social distancing. Both of those things to me mean the same thing. You've got a bunch of people in Washington that are sitting around in a room trying to come up with terms that don't scare people. Quarantine scares the shit out of people, so we came up with social distancing. We couldn't call it antisocial because that's an actual disorder. So they've coined the phrase social distancing. And I think it's smart in this situation. They are telling us exactly what we need to do to get a handle on this thing and get past it. But in order for that to actually happen, a majority of the people are going to have to listen to it. Folks, the tornado is on the ground and it is headed for your neighborhood. It has your house in its sights. Why are some of you not doing the best that you can to protect yourself, protect your family, and protect your neighbor? I don't want to see this affect anybody. But when you see, and it's almost like it puts a face on it and makes it real, when Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson come out, hey, they tested positive. Then it's got a face on it. Then everybody feels like they know Tom Hanks. Not a nicer guy on the face of the planet. And if he got it, then, oh my God, now we've got a face to it. Now it's a real deal. Other than Tom Hanks, and I don't know Tom Hanks personally, I don't personally know anybody that has tested positive or that has the virus. But I do know that the best way to keep that the case is through self-quarantining and social distancing. I've had people tell me my whole life that I'm antisocial and unapproachable. And now it's going to be popular for me just to be able to say, no. I'm just socially distanced. I'm distancing myself socially. We're going to learn a lot through this process. We're going to come out the other side. The stock market's currently tanking. That too will come back. We will make it through this. We will make it through this a lot faster if people will do their part. Maybe it's inconvenient. Maybe it's not as fun. Maybe you're going to have to deal with your kids complaining about not being able to go here, not be able to go there. Spring break sucked this year. True. Deal with it. Move on. But do your part. I cannot ask you and implore you enough. Do your part. Stay at home. Now, that being said, I also want to say that I consider Starbucks well within my self-quarantine and socially distant circle. I'm not saying be afraid. I'm saying be cautious. I'm not saying freak out or become hysterical. What I'm saying is do your part. We know what stops the spread of this thing. The longer we don't do and take those preventative measures, the longer we're going to be dealing with this. The longer we're going to have to be socially distant. The longer we're going to have to self-quarantine ourselves. So do your part. I know me being in the music business as a songwriter and producer, I'm used to holing up in a room and being socially distant. So it's nothing new to me. But guys, if you don't have to take that trip, if it's not life or death, then don't take it. Stay at home. Instead of going to the grocery store, have your groceries delivered. Does it cost $3.95 plus a tip? Yes, it does. But that is better than going and being around all the people at the grocery store. Even stores like Publix are starting to limit their hours. They're going to close a little early. Pay attention to the news. Watch and see and listen to what the smartest people in the room have to say. But none of it matters. It's not enough just to hear it. You've got to put it in action and practice it. We will make it through this. We will be okay. But each one of us has to do our part to make that happen. I'm willing to do it. I hope you're willing to do it. Most importantly, I hope that you all stay safe. I hope that you all stay healthy, and I hope that you're taking the precaution and the preventative measures to keep you and your family and your friends safe. Guys, that's going to do it for the Steve Freeman podcast for today. I do want to tell you, make sure you are following me on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, because while we're going through all this and we are all doing this social distancing thing, I'm going to be doing several live streams. I'm even thinking about doing one every single night so we can all talk about this stuff. We can all get together. We can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So make sure you're following me on social media at the Steve Freeman so that you get alerted whenever I am doing a live stream, and you can come hang out, ask questions. We can talk about stuff and just have a good old time. So make sure you're following me so that you get those notifications. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Leave us 5 stars, and please leave a written review. Again, all across social media at the Steve Freeman. The podcast brought to you by artistdevelopmentacademy.com. And until we meet again, keep being creative, keep pressing the boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with being independent. See you in the next one.
Thanks for joining us for the Steve Freeman podcast. Be sure to subscribe and follow Steve on social media at the Steve Freeman.